Hey everyone, Travis here at the very end of day one, week 6 of the NALCS, joined by Scarra, who, I guess the difference between a player and a coach is you don't play, as I heard you mention.
Exactly. That's exactly what I told someone outside. They asked me what the difference between a player and a coach was, and I straight up told them I don't play.
And then his friends were like, oh, and then, yeah, so he's now embarrassed for the rest of the day. Always looking out for your fans, Scarra. Anyway, let's talk about that match. I mean, you guys are doing pretty well. I talked to Pubelter before that, and he said he had called you guys because LMQ had been struggling in scrims against them. Apparently, uh, were you guys worried at all going up against those guys, the LMQ folk?
I feel like we have a strategy that when we go into the game that we perform better than anyone else. So if we push ourselves into that specific strategy, then we'll come out ahead like 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, and our scrim results show like that as well. I was a little bit worried about the draft phase. I knew Ziggs would be banned, but aside from that, I was kind of skeptical on what else they give us, and then they gave us Lee Sin. I was very amused when that happened.
When you say we have a strategy, do you mean just like one strategy that just works every time, or do you just mean like we always have a strategy prepared, like a unique one?
It's not unique. It's just an overarching thing, a theme that we've done throughout the week. That it's like we set certain goals, and the goals kind of fit like a certain pattern. And so I guess you could call it a strategy, but it's generally just like we play the game that we want to play, and that's like the best thing. We drag the other team into our game style, and we beat them at it.
So, like an English scholar could look at it and be like, "This is like a Shakespearean play, like a Dignitas theme, where like every, the play might be different, but if it's part of that theme, then you guys are really, it's always going to be sort of the same components."
Hell no! What the hell?
Is that not how you would fit? I mean, that's what I was getting out of it.
That was not even close to what I was saying.
Well, I feel like we've learned a lot. Now let's talk about what actually happened in the game. You said that Lee Sin was a big moment for you guys, and I was actually just discussing with a friend of mine who is sort of follows the Dota scene, and he was curious about how much games are decided in Champion Select and picks and bans. What do you think? Is that a huge deal for you?
Mm, I think it's very rarely one team gets heavily outdrafted. Just the nature of the league draft, meaning that it's only like 3 bans and then 5 picks, and rather than the alternating draft ban that Dota does, means that it's very hard for one team to have a huge advantage in draft. Typically, the biggest advantage you can get is like a 5 to 10% like kind of deal, but that's a significant figure. Like if you can get a 5% or 10% lead in the draft phase, like that's enough to like push it over, especially if the teams are anywhere equal skill.
Again, going back, you said that you were really happy when you got Lee Sin. Do you think that was like a 5-10% deal?
It was something like that, but we had plans for almost every other pick they would give us. So we weren't really like, it wasn't something that we had completely cared about. It was like, if we got it, great. If we didn't, we had like X, Y, and Z and like another A thing that we could fall back on, just depending on how they drafted. We had a very reactive draft phase against LMQ this week.
Now, obviously, when they go up there and you said you had a lot of different plans for whatever they would pick or ban. Once they sit up there and they're at their chairs, you can't like go up there and be like, "Hey guys, okay, they pick this, whatever." So how does that work for you? Like who takes over the control or the inside of that as they sit down?
Well, we used to do it where it just flowed out, and typically Crumbs is the one who always did it. But one of the times we almost messed up in draft, like really badly. Like it was just when Caston was super broken, and we almost forgot to ban Caston. It was like the last thing we would expect. So nowadays, what happens is that we go over to draft multiple times a week, and then Crumbs goes in with a notepad to make sure 100% we know what we're drafting the day of.
So you're just getting that C9 tech then, the notepad.
Yeah, definitely. We stole that straight from C9.
That's what I thought. Now, let's talk a little bit about patch 4.10, which is obviously just hit. You're actually the third mid laner, if you can count yourself as a mid laner still, that I've interviewed today and talked about it. What are your thoughts on the patch, maybe even specifically in the mid lane?
I think there's some really, really powerful picks in every role. I don't like the current meta, which kind of forces. I think Dragon might have been overbuffed. I think typically whichever team gets 2 dragons consecutively, or 1 dragon has control of the next one. Like every dragon snowballs, and it used to be that you can make plays on the other side of the map when it happened. But now even if you make a play, like you kill a champion, and deny like 3 waves, it still won't be worth it gold wise to do that. So we've been trying to work around a lot of things about that in 410, as well as certain champion picks. Like random AD carries are getting better. Like you see a lot of Sona, a lot of Nami nowadays. It's just a bunch. Like it feels like it's changed dramatically from 4.9. I don't really like how it is right now. I feel like it's more spectator friendly to watch because there's potential for there to be a lot more action early game, but it's less friendly to play.
Now, I've spoken to a lot of mid laners today. You're actually the 3rd mid laner I've spoken to, if you can count yourself as a mid laner. So I'd love to know your thoughts on mid lane and 4.10.
I think I just had deja vu there, but
it's because you didn't answer the question I asked you. Scarra.
Oh, my bad.
Gave me dragon and AD carries.
Okay, my bad. So for mid lane, it's kind of strange. I think Ziggs is still ridiculously good. Like there's 4 or 5 Ziggs, Syndra, then like random other picks, Ori, that are TF that are really really good. Yasuo, like those 5 picks, and it seems like everything under those 5 picks are pretty underwhelming.
Any thoughts on how they could adjust it, or do you think it's like is it something where they could just change a couple items and it would fix it, or do you think that they would need to like go through and tweak all those other champions?
I think it's just comes down to tweaking. Like what happens right now is there's some champions that are very general focused, like they're jack of all trades champions. But then you have certain champions that are just so good at what they do. Like for instance, Ziggs is so good at poking, so good at defending a turn, so good at sieging. There's really never a point you should take Lux or take something that's like kind of does his role, but just not as well. And then you have these 5 top tier champions, 5 to like 7, that just fulfill their role better than any other champion in the game. So right now, I feel like generally the balance has been, well, let's just bop like one overpowered champion on the head, like with a nerf bat. It's like slam it in there. And then what happens is another one, like he falls down and what he used to counter that was really good, like comes up a little bit.
Like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I feel like balancing right now is very whack-a-mole based, and I'm not very much of a fan of that. I think they have the right idea, but I feel like their balance is done very awkwardly, if that makes sense.
Any thoughts on the new items?
I think Essence Reaver sucks, but the buff they're giving it, the 1080 on PBE, is actually really really good. Ardent Sensor is not a great item either. I think there's BT is a terrible item. They definitely need to buff that. So the item changes really only change what ADs bought, and what like assassins don't go toward Thirster anymore. And so I know a lot of people are crying out that like AD role is now like useless or whatever. And from what I understand, AD role seems, if not as good, like stronger than it was before. And it seems hilarious that people are like, the first initial knee jerk reaction was like, holy shit, AD suck now. And whereas AD carry has been, I feel like it was less relevant in like season 3 than it is now. Like I feel like AD carry role is an extremely relevant role at the moment.
Now, I normally don't like to spend too much time talking about sponsor stuff, but from what I understand, you guys are going to be, with one of your new sponsors, producing a line of statues or action figures around with the team. This is fascinating to me, and perhaps first in esports, at least in League of Legends esports. So what is actually the deal here?
So 3D Systems, one of our sponsors was like, look, we'd like to make little miniatures of you. And I was like, okay, how do you do that? And they're like, well, we're a 3D printing company. So all they need to do was have pictures of our front, back, sides, and they were able to whip up a little miniature of us. And they have them in like each individual size, and Zion's looks terrible. Okay. But aside from that, everyone else is kind of similar. And for some reason, we've been seeing a lot of demand for them. I just think they're funny to have. Yeah.
Now, did you have to do this like in a bikini or like to do the picture thing so that they could get the right proportions or anything like that?
No, but if you want to imagine that I did, Travis, it's all you.
Now, is the cutie pie one going to be the one that sells the most?
It's hard to say. I really like the proportions on that one. Yeah. But I feel like on mine, there's like a big bulge in my crotch area for some random reason. I really feel like they were a little bit generous in that, and I'm kind of confused why they did that.
You're really confused.
But that one might sell the most.
Okay. Really, I mean, I was just surprised at how confused you are about it, because that seems like kind of a diss on yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, generally the crotch would be bigger.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's just sort of wrap this one up. The other thing is Odie mentioned to me that you guys are going to get a 3D printer in the house, which is fascinating to me. Do you guys have any plans on what you'll print?
We were immediately told we couldn't print anything lewd or not safe for work or racist or sexist. So effectively, I feel like we're not going to be printing much in the house. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what we're going to use it for. It's just going to be nice to have it around. And we'll probably just like think of random stuff and be like, oh, that sounds funny to print. And we'll go ahead and do that.
Could you possibly get like a map of Summoner's Rift and then print out or scan, all the characters, and then, be sort of like one of those generals like out on the warfield, as they, they've got like a map and they're moving like the action figures around or whatever, so that you can like plan and strategize?
The look I'm giving you is the look that you give someone when what they're speaking doesn't make sense to you. I would not do that because I personally don't like Risk, and that's what it sounds like. You want me to play like a board game, and I'm not really feeling that. We already have a gigantic board which has like sticky like words and like other stuff that we use to plan out the rest of our day, and I don't really want to be playing a board game of League when I can just be playing League of Legends on the PC.
You only do like card games though, right?
Yeah.
Wait, do you play Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a deck that I've constructed that is an aggro priest deck. It's going to take the world by storm.
I cannot wait for every person in that deck off you, Travis. Yeah. If that does happen, though, I will pay you $1 million. Okay.
Well, that's a little bit more incentive now for me to actually succeed with that thing. I think I'm going to talk to Trump a bit. You have any shout-outs, plugs, anything you want to say here at the end to all your fans, Scarra?
Really, of course. Like, it makes it so insincere now that you've already like set me up to thank my fans. Yeah. Like, I was going to do that anyways. But now I feel less inclined because you're doing it, but I have to do it anyways. Like, obviously the fans...
so what you're saying is you don't want to thank your fans. That's what I'm hearing. You have to do it anyways. You're like, oh, this sucks.
I just don't like to be prepped for it, Like, but I like to think about the fans, I feel like everyone has this... Most analysts and a lot of people out there have this general idea that Dignitas... it's just like a bubble waiting to burst. Like they're doing well right now, and then we expect them to like fail miserably. And maybe that's because of our history, and other stuff. But I'm here to let you guys know that won't happen this split. So believe in me, because you don't need to believe in the team. You need to believe in me and the team, of course. Aside from that, like obviously, thank you to all of our sponsors. We're Intel, as well as the rest of our sponsors. And I'd like to thank Markeem personally for taking this video and the time off to do this generous video with me and Travis.
I'm not really familiar who that person is. You can check out the rest of our coverage of all things LCS at ongamers.com.